This isn't just football. It's purpose. It's power. Learning about the people who execute the mission and represent more than just themselves. Behind every jersey is a story. Behind every whistle, a mission. Led by the coaches. Coach Lee, Riverside. Coach Wilson, Wakefield. Coach Nile, Hillside. Coach Green, South Garner. Coach D. Robb, Southern Durham. Coach Marshall, Millbrook. Coach Saxby, New Bern. Coach Rackley, Rollsville. First and Goal 365 brings you the Legacy and Leadership Series every Monday at 7 o'clock p.m.
How's everybody doing? It's your man, Coach Block, and I am here with the First and Goal 365 podcast. And today is a special day because this is the first of a series of interviews that we are going to be doing with coaches that are in the First and Goal 365 Jamboree, but also one of our major sponsors is the United States Marines. So we will also be having a coach, and we're going to highlight and spotlight a Marine who either recruits the area or the specific school. So stay with us and stay locked in so that you can learn about other opportunities. Of course, we know everybody's number one opportunity is going to be football, the sport that they play, college, et cetera, et cetera. But as you guys know, my job is always to make sure you are a well-rounded individual to know that there are other options that you can take advantage of. And so today we're going to talk to Staff Sergeant Rachael Hoffman. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Cannot complain. So you're going to be our first person. So you're setting the tone, all right? So right now you are the LeBron James of this situation right here. So you're going to set the tone for everybody else. How you feel?
I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good.
Good. I'm glad you feel good and you feel comfortable. So Staff Sergeant Hoffman, tell us why you became a Marine. Tell us a little bit about your background.
So I'm from Wallace, North Carolina. I grew up and I went to Wallace Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody knows that town, it's a very small town.
Okay.
There's nothing there aside from agriculture, farming. And if you wanted to be a nurse, go and be a nurse, which is completely fine. But it wasn't my cup of tea. And I knew that I didn't want to do that. So whenever I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I knew that I wanted to travel. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to meet new people, see different things, cultures, traditions, the whole 9 yards. And whenever my friend came up to me, he was like, "Hey, have you ever spoke to a recruiter before?" And I was like, "No, what's that? I haven't even thought about the military, nothing along those lines." He ended up giving my number to the recruiter, and the recruiter called me and he was like, "Hey, do you want to talk in the library one of these days?" And I was like, sure. Open to the idea because I knew I didn't have any other options. And I spoke to the recruiter. I let him know kind of what I wanted to do. And he's like, "We can provide that for you." He's like, "What else do you want to do?" And I was like, "I kind of want to join. I want to join an organization that's bigger than myself. I want to make a difference. And I also want to get an education." And he started breaking down everything for me. And he was like, "We could do this. We could help you out. What do you say?"
That's great.
I went from there.
So the one thing that I think is important to know, and we discussed a little bit off air, was that you were also an athlete too. So this is a decision that you made after having an athletic career in high school?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Cool.
One of my mentors was one of the basketball coaches for Wallace Hill, and he definitely kind of led me in that direction. He was also in the Army. So military branches, I was also in JRTC. So he kind of influenced me in that way because he knew that I was lost and he was kind of veering me in that direction. Like, "Hey, this would be a good option for you because I see all these things and all the potential that you could potentially do and have."
Cool. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how the connection of just some of the things that you're learning in or have learned in the Marines is parallel with what you learned in athletics. So we're going to get to that in a minute. So my next question is was there a moment in your journey where you knew that I made the right decision? Like, this is it. Because first you might be a little bit, shaky about, did I make the right decision? But when did that aha moment happen? Or like, as we say, when did the light go off that I made the right decision?
I was in boot camp, and in the Marines, boot camp is 13 weeks long. So at the very end of boot camp, you have this big culminating event called the Crucible, and it's everything that you've done leading up to that point. It's like a test to see if you can make it. And there's people, guys and girls to the left and to the right, it's very challenging to get through.
Mhm.
They're like pushing, trying to get through it, and just knowing that they have my back. They are there with me. They're there helping me every step of the way. And that team building, that team effort really like did it for me. That was it. Me knowing that I'm where I'm supposed to be at this time, in this moment in time. And I know that no one can ever take this away, and I'll always remember this.
When you say no one can take this away from you, tell us what it means to put the uniform on. What does that mean to know, like you said, that you're in something that is bigger than yourself?
Yeah, so I think what that means to me is I'm wearing my last name and I'm representing my family. And my grandfather, he was also in the Marines, so
Awesome.
I'm keeping that tradition alive. And whenever I put the uniform on and I reminisce on all the experiences that I've been through, all the places that I've been, all the things that I've done to support the country, I think it makes me feel like I've accomplished just that. I've done things that most people probably wouldn't think of just by saying, yes, I'm going to commit myself to this organization and I'm going to make a difference.
Now the Marines are known for like discipline, honor, the cream of the crop. You never hear anybody joke about the Marines. So tell us, like, how does those values, how do they operate for you every single day? Like, you have student athletes who kind of, they play the sport, but they don't realize until after they get older and washed up, like myself, that you were really getting values that carried into your day-to-day life. So how does that happen with becoming a Marine, where you see, like, even when you are in your civilian clothes and you're just Rachel, how do you see those things manifest, or those values manifest in your life?
I think it's definitely, everybody can have motivation, but it takes discipline to keep up with those goals and to maintain and stay consistent with what you're trying to accomplish. So I definitely feel like whenever I was in boot camp, they instill that commitment. Hey, once you started this, you're going to finish this. You're going to go through challenges, but no matter what, you're going to keep pushing. You're going to wake up at a certain time. You're going to do things at a certain time, because this is the ultimate goal, is to become a Marine. The ultimate goal is to succeed. And you have to do these things to do that. And that kind of brought me into whenever I got to my job and I started learning about my job. And whenever I deployed, doing things at a certain time and doing things at a certain way with people that we built connections with, and talking to people in certain ways to make sure that we understand, that all kind of tied together to help accomplish the mission.
Right. So then what advice would you give a student athlete who wants to grow as a leader? So what type of values, and one of them that you emphasized was discipline, but what other values do you have becoming a Marine that also implement leadership?
I think commitment. I definitely feel like if you start something, you need to finish it. You can't back down. You can't turn the other way if things get challenging, because I mean, life's challenging regardless if you're whatever you're doing. I definitely feel like surrounding yourself with people that will encourage you every step of the way and not bring you down is important as well. And honestly, just overall, making sure that once you set yourself at a goal, that you don't stop, that you keep going.
So then you worked in Durham, and the great part about that is the Jamboree is in Durham. So what were some things that you enjoyed with engaging the Durham community in reference to recruiting or just giving information? Because I'm sure everybody you talk to doesn't convert over into saying, yes, I want to be a Marine, but you do get the opportunity to just shine a light and share some information, and also possibly give people some seeds that can grow and manifest. So what did you enjoy about engaging in the Durham community?
I think I enjoyed learning and kind of connecting with people, the different personalities, and understanding what their goals, or maybe their short-term goals and their long-term goals were or are, and really understanding their, like, what they think their purpose is. And if maybe they're lost, or maybe they're trying to figure everything out, kind of giving them some guidance, and or explaining to them that there's opportunities, there's options for you. And whenever you're open to understanding and learning from different people, you really can be surprised of what you can do.
Right. So then, speaking of being surprised of what you can do, what when you're looking at someone as a potential recruit, what characteristics are there, or what do you see? Do you see it like physically? You're like, yeah, you can do it, or is it more so the person? Because similar to football recruiting, there's a type. You get what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't know where they fit based upon the coach or the recruiter coming to the school. But when you're coming to look at a person and their potential, what do you look at as far as an ideal recruit for the Marines?
So I observe their mentality.
Mhm.
If they have that mentality where they're if they start something, they're gonna finish it.
Mhm.
If they have that mentality where they're a hard worker, whenever they basically, like, whenever they are at school, they're respectful of their teachers, they're respectful of other people, kind
Mhm.
of that overall, like, good person.
Mhm.
There may be some things here and there that they need to work on, but that's okay, that's everybody.
Mhm.
And then also they're committed to they may not necessarily be, like, completely in shape, but they're committed to working
To
themselves to
getting
get
there.
in shape.
Mhm.
Yes.
And what unexpected opportunities can a student athlete find by becoming a Marine? Like, so what was something that you're like, I'm a Marine and okay, I'm here. Life is good. And then all of a sudden there was something like, I didn't know that. What is something that they can experience that it's like, you know, you have to be a Marine to experience this?
Are you talking in regards to, like, the opportunities that the Marines
The
have?
opportunities that they have, or even just some of the relationships that you've encountered with just higher ups when you're noticing doors open up, an opportunity of that as well. So really the whole gambit. So whatever area you'd like to talk about.
Yes, so there are so many opportunities, that the Marine Corps has that I've definitely taken advantage of.
Mhm.
One of them is educational opportunities.
Mhm.
So, right after high school, I wasn't super fond of going to school right after getting out of school.
Okay.
I wanted to try to figure out how to start a career and then have a secondary like, have the education kind of go after, like, 2 or 3 years. I
Mhm.
wanted to get an education. So after about 2 or 3 years after I traveled a little bit, I started trying to figure out all the opportunities, and the Marine Corps has, a free education. The Marine
Mhm.
Corps has different opportunities where because you're military, they'll work with you.
Mhm.
They understand that you are deployable. They understand
Mhm.
that you go through different things. So being able to communicate to the professors and letting them know, like, hey, this is going on,
Mhm.
but I will get you this assignment on a different day at
Mhm.
this time, and then
Mhm.
they'll work with you on it.
Mhm.
So definitely the education opportunities. Also, like, building connections with other people.
Mhm.
Networking is a huge thing in and out of the Marine Corps,
Mhm.
and regular life as well. So you definitely can build connections, and that way, if people were to stay in after 4 years or get out after 20 years, it doesn't really matter. They can definitely take away all the qualifications and all the certifications that come with it all.
Mhm.
It could just be like if once you open the door and
Mhm.
you really, like, take advantage of everything that you can do while you're in, it
Mhm.
could save you so much money, time, and allow you to get a great job outside the Marine Corps,
Mhm.
making so much money after.
And so the one thing that I think is important for especially for those student athletes who may not have seen much outside of their community. Could you tell us about some of the places that you've traveled to?
Yes, so my first duty station was in Iwakuni, Japan. It's a couple hours away from Tokyo.
Mhm.
I stayed there, or I lived there for about 2.5 years,
Mhm.
and I absolutely loved it. I went on, like, little detachments that we call it, to Guam. I went to Australia. I went to South Korea.
Mm.
I went to all these different places. It was absolutely beautiful. I climbed Mount Fuji. I went to Tokyo. I went to Osaka. I went to Hiroshima. I went to so many different places.
Mhm.
And then I was stationed after that in Camp Pendleton, California.
Okay.
And so again, I went to LA, I went to Malibu,
Mhm.
I hiked the Sequoia National Forest, I went to Arizona, all the states around California,
Mhm.
and it just is nonstop. I absolutely love it.
So once again, you've seen the world and you're coming from a small little town, like you said, that most of the people went into medicine as far as nursing and things like that. But then now you've just traveled the globe just with one decision. So now,
Yes.
what do you say to a parent? Like, let's say we're sitting in the room and a child may have has come to you and said, you know what, I want to make that decision, and I want to do this, but then you may have a parent who's unsure. So similar to football, this is why we're talking to recruiters. You also have to recruit the parent a little bit too. So what do you tell a parent who may be unsure about this opportunity or think that, or disagree with the opportunity for their child?
So I went through that similar situation where my dad was all for it, but my
Mhm.
mom was very hesitant with me joining.
Mhm.
And I, whenever I sit down with a pulley or an applicant and I speak with their parents, I try to understand what they're going through
Mhm.
because my parents went through the same thing.
Mhm.
So I really try to explain to the parents that, for example, I use my like personal example.
Mhm.
I am in the air wing, so I work on aircraft.
Mhm.
With that being said, I'm like administration for aircraft. So
Mhm.
I basically record data for aircraft.
Mhm.
So imagine like you're doing an oil change for a vehicle or you're removing a part, installing a part, all of that has to be recorded,
Mhm.
but on an aircraft.
Okay.
So a lot of parents, they get very hesitant if they only are tracking that the military is like infantry out in
Mhm.
the field, um, in the dirt all the
Mhm.
time, shooting, whatever. That's not always the case. It depends on your job and it
Mhm.
depends on what you want to do in the military.
Mhm.
For me, I knew that I wanted to contribute, but I wanted to do it behind the scenes.
Mhm.
So I volunteered to do administration, and I wanted to really also work with the maintainers, the mechanics that work
Mhm.
on the aircraft. So that allowed me to travel because there's always aviation everywhere in the Marine Corps. There's going to be somewhere
Okay.
where there's an aircraft. Um, and so whenever I explain this to the parent, I let them know what my job is, and
Mhm.
they're very like, "Oh wow, I didn't know that."
Okay.
So there's so many jobs. You can be a combat camera where you
Mhm.
take pictures, like social media.
Mhm.
You could do literally. There's so much. There's so much.
So you just told me there's a job for people that can go out and just be a photographer.
Yes,
That is awesome.
it is awesome. I wish I did that job. That's why I said it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
Um,
before we go, one, you did a fantastic job. So I just want you to say that you did a fantastic job. But
Thank
before
you.
we go, what is something that you want someone to remember about engaging you and the potential opportunity about the Marines? So what is something that you want them to a pondering point that they can go home and think about a little bit and say, maybe I should make that phone call?
I think someone should, or that person should, take a step back and understand what their short term and long term goals are.
Mhm.
Understand that it is a necessity to be open-minded
Mhm.
to different opportunities and to different options before making a final choice.
Mhm.
So if that means talking to a coach, talking to a mentor, talking to someone that maybe like a recruiter,
Mhm.
maybe like you're like me, I was like, there's no way I'm doing this
Mhm.
whatsoever. But then I understood that I was kind of lost. I didn't know what to do.
Mhm.
So getting the opportunity to understand my options
Mhm.
really transformed my life
Okay.
for the better. So definitely being open to all the options, all the opportunities, and really understanding if you don't necessarily have the money to pay for college,
Mhm.
there may be a different route.
Mhm.
If you want to do it in a different alternative route, that's okay.
Mhm.
And if you don't want to go and be in the field in the military, it's
Mhm.
okay to do administration,
Mhm.
do different things, but understand your options first before making a final decision.
Yeah. And one thing I did not get a chance to emphasize is you traveled all these places and seen all these sites. How old are you?
I'm 25. 25.
25. That is amazing to be able to say you've traveled so much and seen so much at the age of 25. And then now you're in a position where you're recruiting others to get the opportunity to do the same. So, once again, I thank you for your service and thank you for being a part of this. So, how can someone get to you, or what would be the best way to contact or your contact information to email you? Or if say somebody's watching this right now and they say, I'm interested, I want in, how would they get in contact with you, or what is the best contact form?
So there is a recruiting station near Jordan High School. It's right next to the Harris Teeter. If everybody knows where Jordan High School is, it's literally right across the street, right next to Harris Teeter. It's called, it's just the RSS Recruiting Substation Durham, North Carolina. It's about maybe 15, 20 minutes away from the downtown area of Durham.
Cool. And then what if somebody happens to check this out and maybe they don't live in North Carolina or this area and they're like, is there a national email or?
Yeah, so you can go online to Marines Online and put like a little like your first name, your last name, and kind of a point of contact, and a Marine recruiter will reach out to that individual and go from there.
Cool. So before we get out of here and get into Coach Lee's segment, is there any final words that you have specifically for anyone out there that for yourself or for anybody who's interested or for a parent? What final words? I'll let you have the final words for the Marines.
I would say explore your options before making a final decision and simplify.
Boom, that's it. So once again, thank you, Staff Sergeant Hoffman, for being on. I appreciate you for setting this up and setting up the tone of the rest of the interviews. And hopefully you get a chance to come out August 16th to the Jamboree if you're free.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll be we'll be up next with Coach Lee. So hold tight. We got Coach Lee coming in the building from Riverside High School.
We develop quality citizens who keep our core, our country, and our communities side by side on the winning side. Not for glory, but for honor. For a code that isn't written or spoken, but lived. It's what we do. It's who we are. It's the battle cry of our fighting spirit. Battles won. See all the battles Marines fight to win at marines.com.
Okay, and we're back. I got Coach Lee, head coach of Riverside. Once again, he is starting this off, this whole journey that we have with all the coaches who are going to be a part of the First and Goal 365 Jamboree. But Coach Lee, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Just trying to
bring it closer to you. See, you
just trying to get ready for this thing.
Don't be
man.
too cool.
Yeah, man. Just trying to get ready. Just trying to get ready. It's season's getting ready to start. Next for it up.
Yeah, so that's it. So what we're going to be doing, similar to what we were talking about with the Marines, is we're trying to go about this to figure out more about the coaches, what motivates you, more behind the whistle than just X's and O's, right? So like my first question is simple. What inspired you to get in the game? And then now what inspired you to stay in the game? Because you've been coaching now for how many years?
So this will be 22 coming up. 14 as a head coach. So,
man.
Yeah.
All right. So then what inspired you to even get in this game? And then also let's talk about what keeps you going at 22 years.
So, just starting, I came from a football background. So I'm a Reedsville guy. So, at that culture,
that's ball.
Currently at 22, 23 state championships, 5 in basketball. Just coming from a sports culture of that's being important. Being around the program at UNC Chapel Hill, Mac Brown 1.0. Seeing things things run a certain way. And it was just a lot of the lessons that it instilled in me as a person, personally. And then also just like starting, I started at coaching middle school football and had to get talked into doing that.
Really?
Yeah. So, it's one of the things like when you coach on that level. And so most people there are like, hey, you play this, you do this. And I'm like, I don't want no part of that anymore. I'm done. But just getting at that point and just got to the, I love doing it. Love the teaching aspect of like, I understand now why youth coaches love what they do at that level, because it's the teaching, it's the mentoring. And then, if you actually get to the point where you actually know what you're doing a little bit, you get the opportunities to move up. So I go from that to JV head coach at Person County and Person High School. And then just, I kind of like this. So go from here to, now it's a lot of transition, a lot of change in schools, a lot of moving. Yeah, a lot of moving. Yeah. But just going from starting at those beginnings and trying my best to get at a point where I take advantage of my opportunities that I have. And it's come to, it's not a hobby anymore. It's a job. So, but I enjoy it, and just makes me, I know I'm probably got more years behind me than I do ahead of me. So I'm just trying to get to the point now and trying to enjoy the ride and do the best I can, and get comfortable, on that ever evolving journey of chasing that ring. So just, I'm enjoying the ride right now, and just trying to be humble of where I came from. And right now I think I'm in the space of just trying to get people at the point where, okay, this may be what you want to do. Let me show you how to do it.
Or mentoring for me. So then what outside of football is keeping you grounded, because as coaches, we both know you can get caught up, and unfortunately a lot of people get caught up in this life to where football becomes who you are as an identity, period. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what keeps you grounded to where you can separate the two between the sideline and then when I go home?
So that's actually a new phenomenon.
Okay.
So I've gotten to the point where, from my first head coach job, and like I've been at Riverside, this will be my 9th year, I think. But it's always been a struggle for me to separate the two. Like I would have internal struggles going to the bar and having a beer with my guys, because especially being in Durham, you always got to be Coach Lee. Like it's hard to go to, like my spot is up the street from my house at Kickback Jacks, and we go and we hang out, and all right, my cutoff is one alcoholic beverage, because at some point somebody's mama's up here, somebody's, but I think you have to get to a point where, in order to be a solid person at home, there has to be a boundary, an internal boundary. Okay, I'm cutting it off.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard. Especially if you want to be good at what you do, especially at this sport. You talk about, the hours that coaches put in, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. You talk about a lawyer puts in 60 hours a week, a doctor puts in, my reality, 16-hour days.
Easily.
You've been there. So,
easily.
It's an evolving process. So I'm not going to say, well, I do this and I cut it off. No. It's just some days it's just, okay, I need to shut it off. And then some days, I need to turn it on.
So, burn the midnight oil.
So I there's no concrete answer, but I think you just have to take opportunities to want to say, just do the things that you like doing. Probably one of the biggest things for me is, and it's gonna sound nuts when I tell people like, what? And so, like, I coach football for a living. I love the game. I appreciate the game for everything it's done for me, but I don't watch a lot of it.
I'm now that person. People like, you watch the Steeler game? I may get a quarter in to. I get highlights.
I could not tell you the last time I watched a football game in its entirety.
Right.
And it gets worse with the NFL. Like, I don't watch the NFL. Everybody runs the same offense. It all looks the same. I like that when I watch the college game, I watch it for what I can extract from it. Like because it's got more diversity in offenses and defenses and stuff like that. But just as far as just, I'm gonna sit, like you said, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna go watch the Steelers game, watch Cowboys game.
I can't do it. People ask, watch the game. Like, I might get a quarter or two in, and that's about it.
You're doing better than I am.
For real? Oh, okay. So then let me ask you this. What does family and friends say about Coach Lee and then Corey? Because it's two different people. So then, like, what is the experience, or what would friends say that Corey is this way, but Coach Lee is this way?
I think, like, with Coach Lee, you're going to get, people will say, well, he's always going to do what he says he's going to do. He's always going to help you when you need it. If you ever have want any advice, or is there anything you want to know, he's always going to tell you.
Right.
He's always, you send me an email, I'm going to answer within 5 minutes. call me.
I was surprised when you did that last night. I'm like, you still up? I thought I wasn't gonna get a response in the morning.
That's how I want to be as a football coach and as Coach Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it helps because you can tell that you can get the results from it where you see I have tons of kids that come back home and they want to just sit and talk and they need recommend and they my phone number's never gonna change.
Right.
That part of it. What I'm trying to do now is introduce more people to Corey.
Okay.
So just the Corey that doesn't watch a lot of football. The Corey that is learning to evolve to different things, like the older I get. What we talked about earlier before when we were talking off air about just going to different things. Discovering the city I live in.
Right.
Stuff like that. And then I guess having people understand that there's more to me than this great game. I don't, you're watching the game. I'm probably watching Bridgerton.
I ain't gonna lie, man. Some days you watch the game. I didn't watch the episode of Friday movie or something like that. Something to make me laugh. Cause like you said, to detach from it for a minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And so like I said, that's what I said before. It's an evolution for me.
Yeah.
Because at some point I know that I'm going to stop coaching this game and I don't want to be sitting in my living room looking crazy with, and feel like I'm empty.
Yeah.
And, but then also I think it's also cool because like a lot of our basic relationships, like, all of my friends, and maybe this is not a good thing. All of my friends are football coaches.
Right.
And so, it's hard to evolve from that. Like when we go out, we go out to dinner or we go to something and to talk about other stuff.
Yeah.
That's, so, and, it's like, it's still an evolving process. So like, I purposefully came here and I'm not wearing any Riverside stuff.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. And so
as soon as you're at the door, I'm like, he ain't got the R on.
And see, that's the thing. Just, understanding that there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
I think to be an effective football coach, you have to let the people around you see that you're a regular person.
Right.
That, and especially, the staff around you. I think you work better when you're working if the staff knows that, okay, this is a regular guy.
Yeah. And so that actually takes me to my next question, because with the staff and also with your players, what lesson or what type of mentorship do you want to leave them with? And you already spoke to the fact that your guys come back. So what legacy do you want to leave with them that they can, that Coach Lee nugget that they can carry with them on and on throughout their life?
Probably the biggest thing that I want to leave with my kids is that life is something you have to prepare for. And just like you have to prepare for an opponent when you play, everything that you get out of life in general is a preparation process. Like, and so that's the part of when my kids see me, we do basic lessons.
Yeah.
So it's X's and O's, X's and O's, but then still also it's okay. When you're in the locker room, put everything back where you found it.
Right.
When that, like if you ask my kids, the one thing that they have to hear from me is put stuff back where you found it. Because when you're at home with your mama,
put stuff back where you found
it. If you take something out of the refrigerator and you get to eat on it, put it back where you found
it.
I think the simplest lessons are the best. Do what you say you're going to do. I try very hard. If you ask me something, if you ask me to do something, I'm going to be here. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, you were here early too.
Yeah, I pride myself on those things, but I also want the kids that I coach, the staff that I make attempts to supervise, to understand, okay, these little things, these are standard things that is going to pay off when you're 30,
right?
When you're 50,
right?
Just little things like that. And so, you know, I couldn't remember a play from high school.
Right.
But I do remember, you know, having to do punishment runs.
I know that's right.
Crazy.
I know that's right.
You know, I do remember, you know, doing up downs, and like back in the day when it wasn't no 90-degree rule, and having to do up downs for something that was a housekeeping issue.
Right. Right.
Or that was you know, you left this looking like this, you left this in the floor. Like, you know, nobody, you know, very rarely did we run or do crazy stuff for something that we, you know, that was football related.
Right.
So I want to carry that on, because I know that those things are more important than, you know, trips left 37 count.
Right. And so what you saying that, even with those values of what is important, how do you define success for yourself? Because you've been in the game for a long time. How do you define define success for yourself, your staff, and your players, both on and off the field? What does that look like when you say it, or when you say at night, I did my job?
So I'll start with the players. I think for the definition of success with them is they realize the top level of whatever the potential is, their maximum potential of whoever they are. Understand that, have them understand that you're not going to avoid the work.
Right.
No matter what it is.
No matter what it is.
What it is. You pick your hard. Because to get what you want out of it, it's going to take a different level of what you're doing. No matter what, if it's football, academics, you know, getting that girlfriend that you want.
It's work.
It's work. And you're gonna have to do it. You're not gonna be able to
and you gotta be consistent.
I think with my staff is getting all of my staff members to, and this is just me personally, to understand what professionalism is. Everybody is not, you know, suited to be a head coach. Nobody, you know, everybody's not made to do that. But what few people understand that actually want to be, whether they want to be a coordinator or want to be a head coach one day or want to be whatever, is there's so much revolving around professionalism. No, at the end of the day, nobody really cares about how much football you know. They want you to know some, but you know, how can you, you know, that like we had a thing one year we talked about. I gave a talk on what was it? How, you know, what you got to do to be a head coach. And it had nothing to do with football. And so can you talk to a parent? You know, can you talk to the parent that runs a $1 million business that wants to write you a check? Can you talk to the parent that mom doesn't have gas money to get their kid to practice? When you're looking for those opportunities, can you come into a room and talk to someone that has a PhD, not in football, and make that person understand of why they should hire you? Can, you know, and that's like the biggest thing. You sit in those interviews, and then certain things, your ability to handle those pressure situations, your ability to, you know, it's all, you know, I get mad on the sidelines too, but at the end of the day, I know that there are these words I cannot use. I know that if I do use them, I'm not going to change the outcome of anything. And you know, and those things matter. Like, you know, like little simple thing, your ability to spell, you know, can come down to whether you get a job or not. Or, you know, your ability to do these basic people things is what I really want to put across to my guys that work on our staff. You know, we've had tons of guys that have worked there. And then, you know, probably the biggest thing I'm proud of is I can run down the gambit of head coaches that have come from our program and also know that very little football has been, okay, this is the level of where we do this.
Yeah.
This is how you act when you go in this building. This is how you need to speak. These are the things that you need to, these are the T's you cross. These are the I's you dot.
It's funny because I have a piece out there on News and Observer somewhere, and Jonas Pope came in. And for those who are watching, he has been on the podcast before, and we talked, and he was asking me about success and how we did things that we were doing at Enloe. None of it was football.
No.
In the last paragraph, he was like, and we finally get to football, because that was the last piece, because I was telling them the similar. So many things off the field add up to what happens on the field. So if you don't have discipline off the field, you're not going to all of a sudden have discipline on the field. We got to practice that in the classroom, in the hallways. If your coaches can't communicate before game day, they ain't gonna be able to communicate when the bullets are firing on game day. So, you know, I definitely appreciate that. The other question that I had. Oh, wait, you didn't answer for yourself.
Oh,
what is success for you?
That's it sounds like I'm constantly evolving, but I think I had to get comfortable, and I think this is something that all high school coaches have to do, is you have basically, depending on your division. So like I'll use our last year's division. We're a 4A school. So roughly I have a 1 in 235 chance of winning the state championship. And so at a certain point, I had to retool what I was doing. Now we're still chasing that. That's the whole point. We're going to chase that. That's the goal of every football coach.
Yes.
But for myself, I had to go back to when I first started coaching, what my goals were. You know, because when you first start coaching, you know, nobody, you know, there are very few circumstances where you're going to roll into a job. Hey, I'm going to stay here for 20 years. It just doesn't happen. And so, you know, I became, I guess, the guy that, you know, leaves it better than he found it. And so that is always the goal for myself. So, you know, places that I've been, so I guess like a head coach, you know, being at Bartlett Yancey, you know, my whole goal was to leave it better than I found it.
What years were you at Bartlett?
My God. It was my first year was 2010.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, 2010, 2013.
Okay.
And so that was my first head coach job. And I didn't do any better, but I didn't do any worse. And there were some things that we did that, you know, the place now, and then some certain things that we did. And the guy, David Weathersby, came after me and took him to the playoffs for the first time in 25 years. And I think, you know, I would like to think that the baseline we set down allowed a really good coach in David to elevate it and go to that. The second head coach job I had at Northern Vance. So I went to Northern Vance, and they had won maybe 2 games in the last 8 years. It was something ridiculous. And, you know, we came in, I had a great group of guys that came in. Some of those are Vance County guys. And then a couple of guys that came with me, and we walked in the door and won 5. And, you know, I'm super, because I think that situation of leaving it way better than when we found it, was a catalyst for 2 things. Number one, for me personally, to be able to be at a 4A school where I am now, because that's where I came to Riverside then, and then also show and you know, and I'm not by no means I'm taking responsibility for anything Vance County is doing now,
right? But
I do think that the group of guys that I had, and the, you know, us working together, showed that, okay, this can be done here. We can win. We can win here. And I do think that started with that group of guys. And, you know, and it's branched out, you know, like my defensive coordinator from that team is the head coach of Bartlett Yancey.
Okay.
My, you know, offensive coordinator from that team was he took over at Southern Vance, and they were really good. Now he's the OC at Wakefield.
Okay.
You know, it's just, you know, it was a super great situation. But, you know, I prided myself. I pride myself in doing that, and then being here at Riverside.
Yeah.
There's we walked in the door, and there'd be some really good coaches here, and that have done super jobs. But the things that we came in with a degree of professionalism and organization, and our school has won 2 conference championships in its history, and one of them has our name on it. And so, at the end of the day, if we don't win another one, which I'm busting my butt to make sure we do, but if we come out, I know that at the end of the day, we walk away from that. We believe this program way better than what we found it. And so I have to get comfortable with that. But I'm super proud, and I try very hard to not pat myself on the back, but I'm super proud of being able to come into places and do that.
Yes.
And bring some stability and some football knowledge and a way of doing things that that brings respect to what we do as a program, brings respect to anybody that's it's always good to be thought of like for this. You have to call me, like when you started to do the jamboree, at the end of the day, I understand where we are in the hierarchy of, I'm not Grimsley, I'm not Rack at Roseville, but to be okay. He's a good guy. He's gonna do things the right way. He's gonna run a solid program.
I was gonna say solid program.
Yeah. So I'm super proud of that, and will always be grateful for every place I've been because it brought me to that point. So
now, amongst all this, because you got a hell of a road where you have done this, and for people who don't know, taking programs that are not always the greatest and then adding stability takes a lot of work, takes a toll on you.
Oh, yeah.
And this is June. So this is Men's Mental Health Month. How do you find self-care and balance in that as far as like your day-to-day where all right, I got to start taking care of me because everybody's pulling from you?
I think you just have to make time, and you have to discover what that looks like. And for a long time, I didn't know what it looked like.
Okay.
It was
that's
7 days a week, and I got to do this. I got to do this. I'm going to school to do this. I got to do this. Got to do this. And it was crazy because God that's younger than I am was like, look, man, it was Tory now, Hillside. So at the time he was at New Bern. So he one thing we like to do is I know that we always had the state championships at somewhere nearby at Kenan Stadium or up at NC State or whatever. And so if I knew the guys, I would reach out to them. Hey, if you want to do your walkthrough, your game day lift here, come here. Yeah. And so because selfishly, I want to see how you're doing.
Right.
And so that's how I really got to know Tory. That's really how I got to know EJ. Okay. When he was at Vance. And so they did that. But then I was talking to Tory, and Tory was like, we were talking about the format of going in the summer, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And so before then, I was Monday through Thursday. I had just evolved in not going on Fridays. And I was like, Tory, how do y'all manage with that? And he was like, dude, you need to take the time for you. Yeah. Take the time. It's different than, of course, you're going to do football stuff on those off days, but it's not having that practice time. And he said, you're not going to be any worse off. Yeah. You're not going to be any better off. He said, you look in the summer, your kids are gone on Friday anyway, and they don't come back until Monday. And that probably did more for me from a self-care aspect than anything else. So like even today, there are tons of schools that are practicing today. Yeah. Now we start tomorrow. Okay. And so now don't get me wrong. I was on the lawnmower at 7:30 this morning, mowing the practice field, but it's a leisurely, okay, I can stop and go home and have lunch. Yeah. I can, I can sit down for a little while before I have to go sit down with Coach Block. Yeah. I can go home today And, after we're done and just, okay, sit down, watch a little TV, catch a little bit of the playoff game.
It's amazing that we operate like that. And a lot of people don't understand it. Like we have to recalibrate our thoughts, rethink of what it is, because you do get caught in that. And I think maybe that's even a whole nother episode where we just talk to coaches about their mental health, because you get into that routine in that program because there's always something to do. And you're thinking, well, I can go knock this out and I can go knock that out. But meanwhile, that task this one's an hour and a half. This one's 2 hours. And before you know it, you're like, damn, where did they go? And you just spent it at the school.
Yeah. And that's, that used to be, I always tell, I would tell my guys, and I was like, okay, that cost me a marriage, because when I was at Barley Yancey, so I'm still living in Durham, and I'm like, okay, I got X, Y, Z, A, B, C to do at school, and that's an hour and 15 minutes away to Yanceyville, and so I ain't coming back. If I leave in the morning, I'm not coming back.
Hey, Coach, you telling my story too. I promise you. There was a little documentary that Larry Pickett Sr. did for us, and he had the coaches in the room. He's like, Coach Block, what's one thing you tell your guys at the end of the night? Go home.
Yes,
because I lost a whole marriage over this thing.
And my staff will laugh, because I tell that story every year. I tell it to the kids, and so it's, you never want to get to the point where it consumes you unnecessarily. Like I know that, I've heard stories of, Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney and all those guys that they're spending ungodly, but they're also paying them $8-9 million. Now, if you lay that kind of money down, okay, I'll get a sleeper. I'll get a sleeper sober in the office all day. But I think it's important, and and it's also when I hire guys, that's the first thing. Like, I don't care whether they're going to football or not. We can teach them football. I'm like, hey man, have you talked this over with your significant other? Boy, because at the end of the day, you still need to be husband and father, and that's a that's a whole different gamut, I think. But if you won't last a long time, in this game, not at that now, and I hope my position coaches don't call me after I say this, but if you're a position coach, you can let it go. After the practice gets over, you go home, you're good. You when you come, you can practice starts at 8. You can roll in at 7:40.
I was gonna say 7:45.
You can roll in there. No, like practice starts at 8. I'm probably tomorrow. I'm rolling in there at 5:30.
Easy,
just to make sure that things run smoothly. When it's over, I'm rolling out when the job is done. And so,
the janitors used to talk to me, because that's all that was being in the building. When the janitors.
When I know what time the alarm comes on on a Wednesday night,
right?
We have an issue,
right? I was so bad they gave me an alarm key.
Oh, I have one. I
just lock up, bro.
I know what time. Like, there have been times that I've had to sit in where the alarm is, and wait for it to come on so I can turn it right back off and keep doing what I'm doing. But I think just from an aspect of how much it is surrounding a simple game on in the grand scheme on a low level. But I understand, you never understand it until game 5. And you're like,
you start to feel it.
Oh, you're just waiting for that bye.
Start to feel it.
Just waiting. But
I remember when we were winning, me and my assistant head coach Kennedy, we would sit in the office with our head down. People were like, man, what's wrong? It started to hurt. Like, shit, it hurts. You know what I mean? Because like you said, the preparation that's going in and wheeling, young minds to do this is a lot. And then now, like you said, now you got to come home and then still be dad.
And be just as enthusiastic as you were in practice. Like, you can't.
It's hard to maintain that. I'm only laughing so hard because I promise y'all, in my before moving to Pittsburgh, to North Carolina in previous life, transparency moment for those watching, that was the premise of our divorce. Like, yo, man, you put in way too much time with this stuff.
And that was mine. It just, mine got caught up in the upswing transition. So we met. I was a middle school coach.
Yeah.
Middle school pro.
Not too bad.
You practice on Monday and Tuesday, you play on Wednesday.
Yeah.
There's no point of practicing on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
You started over. And you're at home by 4 or 5.
Yeah, easy.
And then got a job at the high school, and all of a sudden the hours changed.
Yeah.
And got a little worse. And then I ended up going to Granville County when Granville Central at first opened, and got stumbled into the OC job.
Yeah.
And it's a little later. And then the next step, got the head coach job at Barley Yancey.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
And I can remember having a conversation. Look, what happened to this? I'm like, this is
where we at now. Yeah.
And so, yeah,
this is where we at now.
So, like, I tell people, like, they're like, oh, that's, you talk to, especially like if you have a lot of women that don't understand the time that's behind it. And I remember after all that, when dating was happening, and it's just, hey, you better find you something to do.
Because from this time to this
time,
it's done.
And people think that, oh yeah, he's just
no.
Where you at? I'm at school.
My lady now, we used to get into it because she always wanted to go travel around her birthday. Her birthday's in September. How am I going to do that?
How many days do you want? And it better be on Saturday.
Right. Like, I'll catch you on Saturday because Friday night we play. And so there's been many trips that, she has taken with family and all that, and I'm not there. Now, because that's not on script, but I think it's a good thing to talk about, because now, how do you suggest younger coaches in a mentor role, how do you suggest they find that balance? Because, you and I both know, well, this is what happens when you go too far. So where is that happy medium, and how do you coach that in your coaches?
It has to be, you have to have a high level of organization, whether it's on paper, electronic, you have it in your head. You have to know what you're doing and when you're doing it and how long it takes, and be okay shutting it off. You have to. And then also you have to, I think, and this is where I think it's hard for a lot of coaches to do, is sometimes you have to intertwine the two. So it's okay to, I think, every once in a while, bring your wife to practice and let her see what you do. Bring your, like, we encourage that. Like, other than our athletic trainer being the greatest athletic trainer on the face of the earth, she's probably a pretty doggone good babysitter.
Okay.
And so, like, our coaches will bring kids out there, and like I was at that point. I was one of them. I've got, my kid was, when I got the job at Bartley Yancey, my kid was 4. And so he's been at practice there.
He grew up in the game.
And then I've gotten to see other my other coaches, my friends, bring their kids up within that. I remembered, I know what it's like to have a stroller. I've seen it. And stroller out at practice. So you got, you're trying to find a little play place where your kids can practice, kids can do whatever they're doing. I think just part of understanding to negotiate your time, and then also understanding sometimes you have to physically show them what you're doing and make them a part of it. Because I think that goes such a long way into them actually understanding what you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
And then because I'll tell every coach now, if you don't have that person behind you, if they're not, they ain't got to be 100% on board.
Yeah.
But they got to be 75% understanding.
Yeah, they do.
Of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that is probably the most important part of self-care, is understanding, like you said, the balance, and then also how much do you involve, you know, your family? How much do you involve your friends in that, and have free conversations about how serious this is,
and goals, like where are you trying to go? I think that was the biggest issue. I didn't communicate how this looks and then how it's different for certain coaches than others. Some coaches have an opportunity because they may have the right connect.
Yeah.
And that may be white or black. That's not, somebody can open a door. But if not, like you said, I started youth, middle school, JV, coordinator. Like, so it was the trek of hitting every stop.
And the thing is, I got lucky. I got lucky and it happened. I think it happened really fast for me. So probably in a 3-year span, I went from JV head coach to high school head coach. And it doesn't happen that way all the time, but it happened so fast, and I just was not prepared for the adjustment. I knew, okay, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And I'm not really considering the people that are at home.
Yeah.
And so, but now,
man, this is a whole episode. I'm sorry. we taking y'all down the street, but I'm glad this shows the other side. Cause like you said, there's people at home. I got accused. Here's what I heard. I just feel like a glorified babysitter.
Yeah.
People love me because I'm coach's wife and then kids. And at that time, I'm like, what are you talking about? Older, more mature. Now I'm reflecting. I'm like, I get it. Because literally that's what she was, because I'm at the school.
And that's not fair. And you have to understand that it's not fair. But also, like, looking back on in retrospect.
Yeah.
Coming back to the point, it's just, you got to tell you, hey man, take the time, go home. No, we ain't got to have a coaches meeting at the end of practice.
Right.
Sometimes
go home.
We can, like we do this a lot. We stand on the 50-yard line on the practice field. Yeah. I say what we got to say, goodbye.
Yeah.
And it's just, little things like that, making them go home. Because the culture is, so
just hanging around.
Yeah. So women, if you don't know,
just hanging around.
When practice gets over, we sit in the coach's office or on the and we're shooting the bull
and just leaning back in the chairs talking.
But now it's funny because they're in the parking lot talking and I'm in the I'm out.
Yep.
See,
yeah.
But I think just, making sure you take that time to, rest and then also discover yourself. And that's the part that I'm doing. That I'm discovering, like what it's like to go downtown Durham. Like the other day, I went to, I probably should have been doing some preparation. But I went to the Bulls game.
Okay.
And and understand how life is on the first baseline.
Yeah.
But
so then let me ask you this: like your team, because we got a season coming in. Your team carries an identity, and there's a culture.
Yeah.
What of that is Coach Lee's influence when they hit the field? Like, so what are they taking on the field that is directly impacted and influenced by Coach Lee?
I think just a consistent high level of execution. I'm preaching on know what you're doing. You ain't got to be a great athlete at it, but you got to know what you're doing. You give me a kid that can execute flawlessly without thinking, and I can beat a kid that's a really good athlete.
Right.
And that's it. We're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it again and again and again and again and again. There's some concepts that we do X's and O's wise that are Riverside staples, and we've done them for years. But there's nothing you can do about it because
that's what you're giving me.
That's
what you're giving me.
I'm taking how to do it.
Yeah,
they're gonna know what they're doing. They're gonna know what they're doing. Hello, everybody. We're gonna run gap scheme. We're gonna run trap counter.
Yeah.
Depending on my guards, we're gonna run buck sweep.
Yeah.
We're gonna run a whole lot of hitches. We're gonna run slant wheel concept. I'm telling you now, but we have gotten to the point where we're good enough at it.
Yeah.
Where, it's almost like a wing T team. You know what's coming.
Yeah. Stop it.
And so for us, it is know what you're doing and understand how to take nuances into those concepts and change little things. We are really big on why we do things. Because kids, I don't want a kid to
That's
follow,
big now.
Yeah, I don't want a kid to follow anything blindly. But they know and can explain to new kids that, okay, this is why we do this way. Right. This is why we do that.
Right.
And those things, this is why we don't leave. Okay, this is why we don't leave our stuff in the locker room floor.
Right.
But I also think it has to be, there are other things that, because we do those things, there are rewards on the other end, that we get treated a certain way. Our locker room looks like this. Like, hey, I'm particular about leaving stuff on the floor because when you walk in it in the morning, what you mean my stuff is clean? What you mean there's no
right.
So those are the things that I want kids when they come out. We're gonna a high level of execution. We're gonna always know what we're doing. And a lot of times when you know those things, everything will take care of themselves.
Yeah. Now you're playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get an opportunity to play the game. So then my final question to get you out of here is, what is it going to look like when Coach Lee hangs up the whistle? What does that look like? Or when is that time coming when you're going to say, I've done it and it's time to pass it on?
I kind of know, but I don't know. So I know that what I want from a general housekeeping aspect, being at a school that has been so good to me and my family, provided me tons of opportunities to be able to take care of my family, do that. I want to make sure that, like we talked about before, that I leave it better than I found it. I want to make sure that we put a guy in place that is going to carry on what we're doing. But I'm not worried about that to the least the next 2 years, because so I've got the ultimate honor that a lot of coaches don't get. I'm coaching my sons. My son is he'll be a junior next year.
Okay.
And so I want to be able to go on that journey with him. But then after that, I don't think we're all ever look what you're doing. Like, nobody's ever done with the game.
Right.
And I honestly don't know. I don't know what that looks like. Like I ask different coaches that I know. Like I've talked to, I don't know if you remember David Green. Yeah. So I've talked to David Green, who's down at the beach hanging with his dog, and he's doing that thing, and I don't know if how much I want to do that. I've talked to Anthony Barber.
Okay.
What retirement looks like, and I don't know, but I don't want to stay so long that I can't retool and be Corey.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. It's nice. Then, I go places. Hey, Coach Lee, Coach da, da, da. But at some point, when my kid is settled and he's making his own way.
Yeah.
And, let's be totally honest and transparent.
Yeah.
So my retirement looks like it needs to look.
Of course.
I honestly, I don't know. But I want to be able to leave the place that I'm at. And there are lots of different scenarios. Like me and one of my really good friends, Jeremy Buck. So me and Buck talk all the time about retirement, what it looks like. And there are a couple of different scenarios. So there's put it down, never pick it back up.
Yeah.
And just find something else to do. There's my son leaves and my retirement is good and leave it in better hands in a younger guy, enthusiastic, that can lead it and do what he needs to do there, and then go somewhere else and leave it better than what I found.
Okay.
Like I always talk about going back to the small town that, football, they shut it down on Friday nights, and they may not necessarily be the best place in the world, but they're not the worst.
Right.
And just go in and I like the teaching aspect of it too much. I like the organization aspect.
Okay.
So it'd be one of those.
Okay.
You asked me a question I was not prepared for.
It wasn't on the list.
Yeah. So,
and the only reason why I asked that is because we talked about like self-care, things like that. And that's something that we don't think about. Like, okay, so what does it look like to be done? You know what I mean? And like you said, even with me doing this, do I see myself ever really, really coaching again? Like you said, it would have to be the right atmosphere for like the community. Like it not so much for me to go in and be like, it would have to be a place that is really like a football place. Let's have some fun. Let's knock this out. Let's win some games versus, that whole restructure, rebuild, and trying to figure out the politics and all that. I don't want to do that again. But do I miss it? Yeah. But then also I think you'd be a hell of a coach, like the old coach who just sits back and counsels the hell out of coaches. Like the guy on the staff that, just let me give me the quarterbacks and all right, y'all go do what y'all do.
Yeah, because I talked about that as a possibility. Go somewhere and just be an OC. Go somewhere and be a quarterback coach and just, and do like they do me. Hey, practice is over. All right,
I'm out of here.
Yeah. Y'all have fun cleaning that up.
Yeah.
I'll put the laundry in on my way out the door.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I know it's coming, but I think just getting to the point where I see other guys that have been at our place and seeing them doing it and seeing them succeed, and to like that for me, that would bring me a lot of peace when I'm done.
Yeah,
just knowing like my guy, like Greg Green in South Garden, does me just watching him, because he had that journey too. He started in youth football, coaching the Durham Titans. And now, and I watched him. Hey, let's have our interviews look like this. Let's do this, and just watching him. One of the greatest moments that I've had that I can quit coaching football, and it was watching him. I was there when they offered him that job. Watched that.
Okay.
And that was the coolest thing to me.
Yeah.
And watching him run his own program, and when he has stuff go on, hey coach, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
What do you think about this? And I wouldn't mind doing that.
Yeah.
Being like the what do you call it? The Godfather.
The Godfather. You just sit back every now and again. Hey, I wouldn't do that if I was you. Oh, okay.
Yeah. The one that I give no football advice. I'm not telling you how to run nothing, but I can tell you,
that ain't gonna work.
Yeah, this right here, this right here is not gonna work.
That ain't gonna work. So, the Jamboree is August 16th. Before we get out, because we didn't talk about it, just give us a little bit about the guys that you got coming back, the guys that are your must see, and then the guys that you didn't know, and now they are must see guys.
Okay. So I'm super excited because probably from a cohesive standpoint, this is probably one of the best groups of kids. Like, and I've talked about this tons and tons and tons. You get guys that are football guys and they want to play and they would, but I've got a group of kids that hang around each other.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
And they spend time around each other, and watching them grow as football players has been such a joy. And now, like last year, I'll go back 2 years ago.
Okay.
So had all those kids come in and they did really well as JVs, and they were, like I said, they were all cool. My son was in that group, and it's just 5 or 6 of them that were all in that, and they knew all these guys. And so JV, they had a decent amount of success, and then we had decided, okay, we're gonna take our lumps with them. Let's bring them all up.
Yeah.
Let's let them play varsity football so they know what reps are like. And then watching them over summer, over the off season and into this year, being stronger, faster, more experienced. I'm really excited about this group from a character standpoint, from an athletic standpoint.
Okay.
And there are going to be some kids that we're going to have that are going to be super, super exciting to watch. Probably our defense is going to be our staple. Got a guy, Talib Harrell. So Talib he played corner for us for the last couple of years. And he has all of a sudden developed the ability to tackle really well.
Okay.
And so like, we're trying to figure out where we can do so he can blossom at that. Really excited about, we have an outside linebacker, Josh Elmanshawi, who is in that group of rising juniors that has done a super great job of bringing his body up to where it needs to be. Hey man, you can't play varsity you can't play here unless you are 200 pounds. And when I said this to him, he was 170. And over the course of a year,
put that 30 pounds on
and made it happen. And so now, like I always tell him, I mean, force me to play.
And
so now I force my hand, I don't have a choice.
I can't ignore a dude 200 pounds playing what position?
Oh, so he plays outside linebacker. So he played in the box last year, but then we're gonna go to a 3-4 scheme this year. So he's gonna play one of those overhangs.
Okay.
And so really excited about him. And then offensively, we're losing some pieces, but I think the pieces we have to replace those are really excited about. So we got a running back. It's going to be his first year playing varsity football. Jordan Harrell. Okay. So Jordan is legitimately one of the fastest kids in Durham. He's a track guy, but has been waiting for this opportunity to showcase what he can do on the football field. So we're excited about him. A staple that I'm really proud of that we don't need offensively is, and it's going to say weird when I say this, is Taylon Lee, my son. And he's one of the better players on the team. He starts at one of our outside wideouts. But because he has been in the system, like he has run this offense for 11 years.
He grew up in it.
So he grew up in it. And so his ability to play multiple positions and it's a big part of why he started as a sophomore. School, like had the honor of watching him score his first touchdown, and he scored it from the tight end because he knew what to do. Dad put me here, I know what to do. Okay. And so he played tight end, he's played wide out, he's played slot. When he goes to camps, he plays slot. And then the spring game, spring game was right before we rolled into exams. And so I had one quarterback hurt, one quarterback was gone. And so he had to play quarterback. And so I'm thinking, this is going to be a hot mess. And it was, he threw 2 touchdowns. He knew what to do. And so I think having him as almost like a mentor on offense, because now he can take the younger guys and the newer guys and, hey, this is how we do it. This is why we do it. Like I listen to him talk, and I'm like, what? Like, how like when you have your kids and you think that you're fussing at them and he goes, you don't listen.
You ain't listening.
But then you find out 30 years later,
he heard every word.
He heard every word. And so so I'm really excited about having him there and having some pieces around. There's another kid, Dakari Mons, who was like Superman on JV. Like he led the team in picks, led them in touchdowns, led him in one-handed catches for touchdown. Oh, he was that guy. I've always thought he was like pound for pound one of the best players on the team. But a lot of times floats under the radar. I'm excited to have him because it's going to be his first complete year of varsity football. So there's a lot of little pieces around. Got some really good guys that are competing for a quarterback spot. So I think having that level of kids that want it is going to be exciting. And now, those kids have spent a year in the weight room and they're not, and then also, and then our one place that we're solid is our out front. So our offensive and defensive lines are spent the entire off season up under the radar. Nobody's looking, nobody's watching. grinding, and those kids had to play last year, and they're getting pushed around because they're all sophomore. They were all sophomores.
Yeah.
And so now they're big enough, they're strong enough to do what we want them to do. Our defensive line is going to be really good. We got a kid, Alex Roper, who's going to play one of our probably our field 4 technique.
Okay.
And so his big brother was in the league, Jeff Gunter.
Okay.
Played in the league, played for the Bengals for a little bit. And so you can start to see the gene pool coming to the top.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about him. He's gotten bigger. About it's about 230 right now. He's a rising junior. So I'm excited about what they can be. And just now it's on us.
Now you got to coach them.
Because being at Riverside, now we're not. I can't reach my back pocket and pull out a 4-star. I just can't. But we like that because now we got to coach our kids. We got to make sure they execute.
You got something to work with. Now we got to work it.
Now we got to work it. Right? We just can't. How you do? Just throw it on the table. Nah, we can't do that. So I'm excited about that. The group of kids that we got. With every team, you got some holes we got to fill. But I'm pleased with where they are in spring ball and where we're going to be in the summer. So
cool. So for anybody who wants to come check out the Jamboree, it's going to be August 16th. Make sure you come through. You can come check out Coach Lee. And know that we still are going to have multiple interviews. So we are going to interview Wakefield next week, and that's going to be who Coach Lee goes against. And so we're going to get all this information.
My man Trent.
Coach Trent, cool guy too. Can't wait to interview him. It'll be the first time he's been on this podcast. He's highly anticipating it. So I know you got my questions ready? No. But please make sure you grab your tickets. You're going to be able to go to Eventbrite. The ticket link isn't up yet because I might have a surprise for you guys. So hold on tight. But it will be on Eventbrite. You can go get the countdown. Ticker is on firstandgoal365.com and follow First and Goal on Instagram and Facebook and on TikTok so that you can keep up when those ticket links hit live. You can be the first ones to buy your tickets. Coach, you got anything to take us out on? Anything motivational or profound? I mean, because you're the Godfather. I call you the Godfather. So go ahead and drop some gems on somebody, man.
Just come out and support high school football. It's going to be a great event. I'm excited about it. To actually not have to travel. It's right down the street from the school. Some of the best coaches in the area. Some of the best guys in Durham. In a beautiful facility. I think it's the best kept secret in the Triangle is Durham County Stadium.
It is. So don't come over here trying to bite after we do this. Don't do that.
so I'm excited to see everybody out and then have an event in our backyard. So come out and see us. Come
out and support. And portion of the proceeds go to all the teams that are involved. So you're also helping the cause. Pay for a team meal or two. All right. It's Coach Block. I was about to say TDS Radio. That's my sister and I. This is actually First and Goal 365. Peace. Y'all have a good day.